All right. So tonight, what I want to do is just discuss a couple of other options and modeling, specifically with the current utensil project. So because of how we're reevaluating the end of the semester, and let me pull up the current spoon model and such like that, as well as the multi-model. As we're looking at how we're going to finish out the semester, I wanted to take the opportunity, since we have the opportunity of dropping at least a final project and reconfiguring a little bit. This gives us a little more breathing room with this current project. I had a couple people ask me about some different modeling options, so I figured that'd be a perfect opportunity to go over some of that stuff. So what I want to do tonight is go over exactly that, a couple of different ways of modeling, and to do that would give us a couple of different models of a kitchen knife and a pasta spoon, or the scoop guy. So currently what we did is, for the basic spoon model, yes, obviously a Form Edit Tools, but we used two different forms, merged them through a bridge, and then thickened them and modified from there. I want to show you a couple of different options of how to really modify existing forms and really play with that with a little more detail. So in closing these two out, first off, let's pull up some canvases just to give us a starting point. You do not have to start from a canvas, but I like to. So to start, canvas, need downloads, and I forgot to title these, so whatever. Start from the bottom. Okay, and that will be a kitchen knife. Start the other, same, second, same, significantly larger pasta spoon. Now we're going to edit these first off to just get them to some correct sizes. Let's do one at a time. So how big should a kitchen knife really be? Well, always helps to grab some sort of a reference and actually just measure that. Obviously, none of the stuff has to actually be fully to scale, but if you wanted to actually model it into a usable thing, well, there you are. So this kitchen knife, not exactly being the same one, but close enough, looks to be about 35 centimeters long, or 350 millimeters. So first, to calibrate this, remember you go over to the image itself, right click, calibrate, select, and you pick 2 points on anywhere on the canvas. And here I can actually pick the point and the butt of the thing. This is at 16 millimeters, significantly smaller. So let's increase that to 350. Resize. Good. Should have just left it at top. Nice. All right. That works well. The next one, utensil. Well, those are pretty much about the same as far as spatulas and such go, so we'll do the same. Let me zoom in, right click, calibrate, pick 2 points, somewhere at the top, somewhere at the bottom. 81 is not quite 350, so we'll use the same on both. All right, resize, hitting F6 instead, brings us back up. Excellent. There's, our starting points. So to start, I want to use the spatula here, or the pasta strainer, pasta scoop, as our starting point, because I want to jump off from where we used the last set of tools. So first things first, new component, pasta scoop. All right. And realistically, if I really wanted to, I can drag and drop the, if it'll let me, I'm not sure. I don't think it will. Nope, that's all right. I'll start some other stuff in a minute. It gives me my reference. So far what we did is, opening up the form space, we used a sphere and then a plane to create those two parts. So we got a couple of options that we use to bridge the two. I wanted to get into a couple more potential options in just using any one form, and it really doesn't matter what you use, because you can manipulate any of this stuff really to do most of whatever you want. It really just depends on where you want to end up. So with a scoop, yeah, I could probably start with a sphere in this one. So I can go right back, grab my sphere on that plane, and we'll start at the spoon again. Somewhere in there, I want to try to make sure that I'm right on the axis because I am going to apply symmetry to this. So let's scale this up to roughly the size of those spatula points. Makes sense. Now from here, a couple things I want to do. I have a multitude of points to create. And with that, oops, I meant to hit the top. With that, I'm still going to delete half of this to just create a general quick bowl form, but I have all those little tines to start from. So I said the best thing to do with something like this is keep it as simple as possible, and you really should keep that in mind. So I can start with this as is, and I can always chop it up later. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Fine. But keep in mind how you might want to start dissecting parts. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start pulling things away from this. So first, let me go to the side and we'll go ahead and delete some sections. So I'll just start from half again. Use a right selection box. So select all the things, delete. Now I have a half scoop. Okay. But how I want to build this out is I want to consider how I actually want to manipulate this, and having a little bit of background in what we already started with, learning a little bit about the Form Edit tools. How can I use those tools to manipulate and create this form? So with that in mind, I'm going to say, all right, I know I can, since I can pull and push and all that sort of thing, well, I can, instead of making the handle from a separate piece, I can just extend one of the faces or sides of this bowl here and stretch that all the way down or chop it up as I go and make the handle. So what I should do is consider, well, how am I going to make these tines? Well, the way it's kind of laid out right now would make you think, well, I can just simply use the existing points. Well, we learned a little bit last time that vertices are a little too fine of a function. So what I'm going to want to do, and this is just the way I'm thinking of how I want to dissect this. This is not the only way you could go about this, but just wanted to show you a way I might go about this, is I think I'm going to try and extrude out, or rather pull outward, there we go, edges and faces. So what that means is, first, I'm going to select this whole thing, and I'm going to rotate it. So I just selected the whole thing and pressed M for rotate, or M for move. And I'm going to rotate it about 20 degrees, or 20 degrees right on. So now this face is lined up with the handle, and this face is lined up with that front tine. The rest don't have to line up. That's okay. And again, I'm using the canvas as an estimating point. It's not going to be my exact method. So select OK. All right. So from here, what I can do is start to pull stuff out. Before I start, I want to make sure I'm working symmetrically, just to save myself the headache later on. So I'm going to symmetry, select the default one, mirror internal. That means it's symmetrical within the form. Or I can use a drop down. You'll see mirror internal, just regular. Pick a couple of faces on opposing lines. Well, the issue with this is going to be I don't have a line there to work from. So I'm going to see if this will let me work this way. No, it's not. All right. Kind of afraid it would do that. All right. So I cannot work that way just yet. What I can do, though, is create a divide line or insert an edge. So I'm going to select there. I just want one. So I don't need both. Single. See, that plops it right in the middle. Not bad. But I do want to make sure that because I need symmetry, that I have another right in the center there. So it's not going to let, I don't know if it'll let me select all of it. Nah, it looks like not so much. Okay, that's all right. Look how that morphed it already. Now, of course, the problem there is it's not smack in the middle. So that might just be an issue. We'll see. Right click to repeat, insert edge, double click. We'll go right in the middle to there. Negative 0.5 and 0.5. Remember that your placement between, if you're dividing line, or sorry, you're inserting edges, The placement is a value from 0 to 1, 1 being closest to the line or the edge you're starting from, 1 being to the next one. So 0.5 is right in the middle. Okay, there we are. Now let me try the symmetry on one side. There we go. Now, would this have just been easier to have just left the sphere aligned like it was? Yeah, probably. But again, just experimenting with some options here. Okay. And I can subdivide things later on as I need to. For now, what I want to do is I want to edit form, and I'm going to use my edge selection tool, and I'm going to select both of these edges, these trailing edges. Remember, even though I have symmetry on, because I selected the one, the other one goes yellow, I want to make certain I'm grabbing both of them. Because as I start to drag, see how it pulls away. But I don't want to drag it exactly that way. Control Z. I want to actually extrude just that edge. So I'm going to press and hold Alt or Command if you're on Mac. Drag this. Look at how I can actually drag the whole face itself outward. Really handy. Now I can go ahead and start scaling this immediately. So let me go to my top view. Oh, looks like I got a little bit out of alignment. So let's go Control Z. That's because my sphere got a little bit out of alignment. Not sure what happened there. And that should have been right on the money. Looks like I rotated it not quite enough. So, okay, before I get too far along, get out of that, hit escape, select the whole thing. Let's rotate that a little bit more. All right. Let's try to get that to actually line up. Looks like because of how the increment works, it goes in 5-degree increments. So that's obviously not going to work. Let's try negative 2.5 just to split that in half. What do you know? Right on the money, right on the axis. Cool. All right, do that again. Edit form. I want to select those two edges. Great. Nope. Both of those. All right. Now I want to start to pull this backwards. Press and hold Alt. Move with the arrow. Great. I want to shrink this handle. I can use the bar, which is the scale tool. There we are. Again, remember the canvas is not right in the middle, kind of problematic, but it's just a guide. Anytime I want to extrude, or sorry, I'm not extrude. Well, it is a planar extrude. I can move that piece back and forth, but if I actually want to on the fly add sections, you have to press and hold Alt or Command on Mac, excuse me, on Mac again at each time. So press and hold, mouse click, release, press and hold, mouse click, release. We'll do one more. Press and hold, drag out. There we are. So that's how you can start to drag just certain elements right along. I can start to go ahead and shape this handle here. Double click both of those, use the scale tool to kind of widen it and shrink as I need to. Just getting close enough and that'll work. I can switch my selection mode over to all. That'll allow me to select actual points. Grab a vertex, drag that out. Now I can actually start to smooth these around. Grab that vertex, give me a little bit more rounded point. There we are. That's not bad. Not great, but not bad. All right. Click OK, use the home button, and you can see what's going on. So basically, I just drug that entire lip there. Nice. So let's go ahead and start shrinking this bowl form as well. Go back, select Edit Form again. I want to keep my soft modification on. We spoke about soft modification last time. This allows me to, instead of be quite so linear with my movement, with my modifications, it allows things to just kind of smooth over a little bit. If you have smooth selected, and that's what I do have selected. I'm going to work from edges. So I'm just going to start from one and work my way up. Grab all the things, but again, since I have edges, can't do that entirely. I just want those sections. All right, move that up a little bit. Nope, it's dragging all the things. So right now, the reason for that is because I have the effect much wider. Look at how the bowl itself is nearly all red except for the bottom. I need to shrink the distance effectiveness. So let's say like 20 millimeters, significantly different. Look at how that shrunk all your effective range. The red dissolves to white very quickly. Perfect. Now, as I drag that, now it moves much more, a much smaller section. Good. I'm going to keep it at that. I'm just going to keep kind of drag these up a little bit as I go. Problem here is it looks like what I should have done is work from the bottom up. So no problem. Control Z a few times. There we are. All right. I'm going to leave that bowl form there. Let's do by vertices, and that might help it a little bit, work a little bit easier. There we are. Starting from the bottom up seems to work a lot better. Like I said, experiment with this. There's nothing keeping you from playing around with this because we're not following an absolute guide with this project. All right. Much wider bowl kind of starts to work. All right. Now, one thing about this whole piece, it is a little bit wide, but we'll deal with that. I don't think that's a really big deal right now. Okay. Some elements are still quite large. I would like to shrink this part of the neck. So once again, open edit form, go with faces, double click on that so it pulls both of them. Let me orbit around so you can see my gimbal. And I'm using the scale tool, which again is the flat one. Shrink it down a little bit. Boop. Really easy to work with this on the fly. All right. So far, that's pretty much what we did last time to create a spoon. Very simple, not much to it. But in order for me to pull points up, I need some actual dimension to this. So again, I'm still not gonna finish, but while I'm at it, like we learned last time, doesn't hurt to every once in a while test finish form to make sure I don't have any crazy errors or anything. So let's hit finish form. See as it calculates. Nice. No error so far. Cool. All right. So you just go back in, just like anything else. Right click on the history slider, edit feature. We're right back where we were. All right. So to get some actual dimension to this, I'm going to just use the simple thicken tool. Open up. It literally just adds thickness to a body. Well, in this case, a surface, because right now it's literally just the thickness of that surface. Select there, and I'm just selecting the whole thing. I used a thickness of 1.5 millimeters last time. I'm going to give myself a little bit more meat to work with. Let's say 2, see where that gets us. Thicken type, soft edges, sure. Direction, normal. Select OK, reconfigure. Nice. Now I actually have some dimension to this spoon, or this scoop rather. There we are. Okay, so we have symmetry going. We have all that going. How am I going to create the tines? What I want to do here is I can just drag faces up. But as I'll show you, click edit form, and let's drag by faces. I'm going to need something a little more easy to control. As I just zoom in here and press and hold Alt and extrude upwards, symmetrical, and I intentionally didn't want to select that center point. You can see where I'm going with this, but that ain't going to work so well. So let's Control Z, cancel out of that. I need to chop up the faces a bit. Okay, and the good thing is before I would have had to add lines all the way around. I don't really need to do that in this case. I'm going to insert some edges. I'm going to make sure it's on both because it'll be easier to work symmetrically. And let's just start from an edge. I'm going to select the actual up and over one here. See how that starts to divide my faces up? Great. Go to top view. Sorry, go back over. Now this is going to be a little complicated. In all reality, it probably would have been more effective for me to do all of this work first and then add the handle. But this is where we are, and just want to be able to show you how to make your way around this. So these tines are pretty evenly spaced, and that'll be just fine. So I'm just going to leave that, putting the location at right in the middle, which is 0.5. Negative 0.5 doesn't really matter in this case because it's on both sides. If I delete the negative, you see that it puts it right in the same spots. Great. So I'm going to go around and do that a few more times because I need how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So at least 6 divisions. There we are. Select OK. It's going to keep reshaping things. Mildly problematic, but not a big deal. Insert edge. Let's get in again. Oh, let's put one right there. Okay, now one thing to note, look at how it's dividing up here. You might actually need to go ahead and do not both sides right now. So let's do single and move it over to here. Now, ultimately, I'm not trying to put a divide right in the middle of the line. I need it actually in the middle of the tines between the two. Great. So that's where we're going to work. Select OK. We're getting some misshapen stuff. Not a problem. Going to keep going with this way. If I can select that edge, it'd be even better. There we go. Keeps not wanting to actually grab it. No, I need that one. Ooh, let's say somewhere about there. All right. Now, again, this is really starting to warp this thing. I might have to do some creative reconfiguring in a minute. But there we are. Another one in there. Where are we? A couple more here, and we should be okay. Insert edge. Both, because I can work from that one. More or less that-ish. We'll try that. Okay. So quick thing here. This is all symmetrical and all that. Is it dividing on the other side? Yes, it is. See, it's adding on both sides. So you don't have to worry about going around and also adding from the other sides. The symmetry takes care of all of that. Great. But let's have a look at what's going on with our spatula. It's getting a little wonky there, huh? We can do some reshaping. That's all right. So I guess first, let's go ahead and do just that. Now, the rest of the bowl is okay-ish, but it is kind of a little bit gnarly here. So let's try to do some moving stuff around. We'll see if I get into trouble, and if not, great. And if we do, we'll rethink this a little bit. But let's work from some lines here, I think, or vertices. Let's try vertices first and see where that gets us. I'm going to go to the top view because it's just a little bit easier to see what I'm doing. All right. Soft modification on to really help out here because I'm going to need it. And I want to use from the left selection box, so I'm only grabbing the parts that I really need. And what we haven't used so far is the free translation one, or moving. We've used the arrow keys, which just drag it in one direction at a time. But trying to be a little more organic with this, so if you grab the center box, you can just kind of move it as you care. There we are, moving into place-ish, just working our way around. That soft modification tool is really helping us out here. Working our way around, just trying to get it back close-ish to where we can work. This side, might need to work that one a little bit more. But okay. And because we have symmetry on, it's doing the same on the other side. Pretty close, not exact, but that'll work. Okay. So before I go any further, because I realize I haven't done, save. You should have started saving. I should have started saving, but I didn't. So here we are. So example. Pasta spoon and knife. All right. Go to edit form, and I want to use faces this time. So now I'm going to go around and try my hand at actually dragging this stuff up. We're going to see how close we can get with what we're working with. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm not just going to drag this upward, see what it does there. Control Z. Excuse me. I'm going to instead press Alt and drag up. That's how I'm going to be creating my tines. And you can see Obviously, we have mirror or symmetry going, so that's what's going to work for us. All right. So basically, we Control Z that just because I want to take note of how far that went. Press and hold Alt, going up, and I'm just honestly going to estimate this. What seems about right? Might be a little excessive, but that'll work. Okay. Oops. So I realized I forgot again. Going up to, I think it was 20. There we are. We'll keep using 20. Okay. Form Edit. Skipping over, going to the next time. Alt Tab up to 20. Good. And just keep working my way around. Each time remembering to release, and then the next time press and hold Alt again, drag upwards. Now see, this is a problem here. Look how much smaller that face is. Go to 20. And again, that one, Alt 20. So obviously this is going to be somewhat flawed. So let's hit OK there. And I'm going to show you instead the other option. This seemed reasonable. Let's try a quick different version. I'll finish that form. See if it gives me any errors. Not bad. But again, me kind of freehanding that obviously is going to be very problematic and give me some real weird results. So let's hide that one and start that over. New form, new sphere, same spot. On there. Let's drag it over to the center. Go to my top view. More or less there. That works. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do here, though, is I know how many I need. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Obviously, the 12th being there. So right now I have how many faces? 6. Let's expand that to 12 would work well if all I needed were just the points or just the faces. I actually would have probably double that. So let's say 24. Now that's going to do that seems like it's going to be a really complex form, kind of a little bit, but not really, as we see what we're going to need really. And all I mean by that is that when you extrude one and want to not have a continuous extrusion from face to face, like I did on that last one, you want to have a gap between there. So us needing to only extrude 12 tines, that means I need a tine and then a gap, a tine and then a gap, a tine and then a gap. So just double that, 24, there we are. Other than that, basically the same thing. Select OK, go to a side view so I can delete that top half. There we are. Delete. Great. Now select those sides, give us a handle again. We'll select, oh, before I do that, cancel, make sure, because what I did forget is put on symmetry. Make sure you apply symmetry, save yourself the headache later. Select 2 faces. You see the green line go around the bowl. Good. Okay. Doesn't really matter which step I go to next, if it's the handle or if it's shrinking the bowl, but let's go to edges, select there, make sure I get both of them just to make sure. Go to top view. Sorry, I have a object right in the way of my screen. That's why I keep looking over. Press and hold Alt. Let's do some dragging. Do it again. Do it a couple more times. That works. So you can always move those divisions around. Just have to create just have to create the divisions themselves. So we'll select that. Use a scale tool to shrink. Same. Bad. Switch to vertex selection. I can drag that outwards. I can move those points around. Just trying to make this a little smoother. Okay. Works well. One thing we didn't cover before is, well, what if instead I really wanted to keep that edge really sharp? Go to modify and you can crease the edge. We talked about this a little bit, but this tool allows you to, instead of how everything is very organic and smooth, actually put a crease there. So it shows you how far the edges are going to allow you to work. And really, these are the only areas that are already selected. Select there. And because it's symmetry is applied, it's already, it'll do just that. So now that bowl has a very sharp edge, just maintains it. So if you wanted to keep it, crease edge. If not, you can either have left it that way, or you can actually use the uncrease edge tool. Does the exact opposite. I'll say, okay. All right. Go to the side again, and I just want to go ahead and shrink those up again. Leave soft modification on, as we decided. Work from the bottom up. That seems to work a lot better. Select all the things in layers. There we go, there we go, and there we go. Now be careful here. That last selection, look what it did to my spoon. If I was trying to keep that flat, it did move everything up a little bit too much. So let's Control Z, and I'm going to shrink the effective range a little bit. Let's go to 10. There we are. Now it's not affecting that top as much. That's all. You just needed to shrink the effective range a little bit. Okay. From there, same deal. Let me go ahead and save real quick. New scoop or scop, apparently. There we are. So go to thicken, give us a little bit of dimension. 2 millimeters seem to work nicely. Again, thicken type soft and direction normal. Boop. All righty. Now we got something to work with. Now we can go ahead and edit form. And now that we have all of these more or less, or now that we have all of these evened out and such, I can select all of them that I need at once and do this all in one operation. So let's see here. I want that one. And I'm just going to go around and select odd pieces, every other. It's not going to be exactly the form that I'm trying to, or not going to be exactly the spatula that I have as my example, but it will be basically what I'm trying to create. So there we are. Press and hold Alt now. Drags all of them up at once. Much more effective. All right. So from here, what I can do, and since I have all of them selected, for one, I can, if I select the scale tool in one dimension, or 2 dimensions rather, now they can go in and out. Now this is a little problematic because I'm working not as all of them individually, but across the symmetry selection. Gets a little screwy. So instead, we'll just leave that as that. I could scale each one individually afterwards, but that all pretty much gets me where I want to be. So yeah, not bad. A little aggressive, but that's okay. Select OK. From there, now it's basically the same spoon. Again, not quite exactly what I might want, but let's play around with it. So now that I have a dimension here and I'm looking at the creased edge, I can go over to modify and let's try uncrease that edge. Just that one. See what that does. That's going to screw things up because it's uncreasing it more than the other. So let's cancel that. But I did want to try uncreasing, say, maybe the bottom. Repeat uncrease, select the bottom edge. Now, the inner top edge stays creased. The inner or the lower one uncreases. So just some different ways you can play around with having some more alterations and not actually having to affect change on everything. So something like that. Now I can play around with dragging that downward. I can rotate that. That's going to do some weird stuff, so let's not do it. But you get where I'm going here. Okay. From there, of course, I can now add my other features. If I want, I can also start to thicken these areas here, meaning like actually with the form tools. So let's go to faces and let's just kind of drag some stuff up and over. I just want to add a little bit more thickness to this handle. So let's pull that upwards a bit. I'm not extruding. I was just pulling upwards, just adding some thickness to it. I can select the sides. And if I draw those outward, thickens the handle a lot more. Now I've got an actually effective handle. It's a little significant for a scoop handle, but hey, I don't know. Maybe you got a lot of pasta to scoop out of there. So there you go. Some interesting ways to work around a similar problem. Obviously, we can use extrude there to cut out those strainer holes. Finish form. Hopefully I get no errors. Hooray, I did not. Go to top view, sketch. There we are. Back to the same deal here. Let's put a circle right in the center. About, sure, 8 millimeters. Great. Let's do another one there. 8 millimeters. Great. If I want to actually make sure that that is the right size, I went to my sketch dimension tool from that point to that point. Drag out, up and outwards. If you can see it, great. If not, let me move it up and out. There we are. It's 12 millimeters. What if I say, oh, you know what? Damn, that actually should be a little bit different. Let's say that should be 10 millimeters away from one another. It just moved the circle around. If you want to adjust it, double click. Maybe let's make that 14 instead. Just drags it in and out. All right. Hit enter. I'm just trying to change that. Oh, let's hit escape instead. It's not doing so. Go to create, or I was just going to use the circle pattern. Select my circle. My center point is the other one. And let's make 6 of those. There we are. Finish sketch. Extrude. Select all my little sketches there, or sketch circles rather. Drag straight through the strainer. It becomes a cut function. Select OK. And there we are. More strainer holes. Great. So that is how you can modify a couple of other forms to create a quick strainer of that sort. So let's hit save. Pasta strainer. Finished. All right, so let's pause there, and I'll see what else we can find, or I'll start the next model. So let's pause there for a moment. Okay, so no questions? Cool. So those are some basic ways to play around with just manipulating a single shape to create a more complex object. So let's cancel or close any of that. I just want to hide that, collapse, and let's close that canvas, and let's start the other one, kitchen knife. So next, start a new canvas. Or chef knife, really whatever. You get the idea. All right, so you have a few different ways you can approach this one. So far, we've been manipulating forms, or pre-existing forms, and chopping those up, moving them around, that sort of thing. For the first example, we modified both a sphere and some faces. So let's see what we can do, what we can really do with faces alone. So I'm gonna go to top view. Let me rotate over. And let's create a new form. All right, so you have a couple of things. What we did before was actually using a plane, which is basically, it gets created in either or one of the two rectangle sketch form, or rectangle sketch dimensions. So either a center rectangle, so you pick a point and draw it outwards, or pick one point and that starts as one corner and you pick the second point, which creates the other corner. Excellent way to work. But what if instead I need something that is a little more less dimensional, and it needs to be a little more freeform? Now you can create a plane, of course, and let's say something like this for just the handle, maybe. So you can create a plane right in the center, something like that. I can cut this up into more faces, a couple. Remember, keep something simple as much as you can. Maybe something to that effect. That would work well. I can always move that into place. Great. So that works for a face, or sorry, for a set of planes. But what about the blade itself? I don't really need it to be so symmetrical. One of the other creation tools you have is faces. And remember, a face is a section of any of these T-splines, which any of these are called T-splines. A face is any one of these internal squares, like I just created with this plane. Any of their forms have them. You can create by simply choosing faces. Same thing. You have some options. You have modes, simple, which is a 4-point selection. You have edges where you can work from the edges, and chain where you can make multiples off the same. Let's just stick with the simple mode because it's simple and we're learning. Number of sides. You can start from 4 sides or multiple sides. 4 sides just being you expect that it's going to be a little more simple again. Multiple sides, the opposite. So again, let's stick with that. And what I'm going to do is I want to use the faces to create the blade. Only real reason there is just to give you some examples. So I find a starting point. Select 1, 2. Now you would think maybe like draw all the way out here, but I need 4 of them. And honestly, that wouldn't be bad. I could, when you hit OK, it rounds things out. And this one, since it was only 4 individual points, that would be a starting point. But again, what do you really do with that? Now, of course, you could add edges and all that sort and start chopping this all up as you see fit. But that's not what I wanted to do. So let's cancel and Control Z that. I want to create multiple faces there. So all I'm doing is I'm just going to start in one section and just start drawing upwards. These snaps will allow me to connect those faces to individual ones, or rather to the next. And if you start or get close to that starting line, it's going to want to snap to the same line, or the same plane, same parallel line. There we are. But this is a, oops, this is more of a French knife, so it starts to curve. There we are. Getting out, getting out. Okay. Now the point is going to be a point. We'll figure that out in a minute. Basically, let's just start from the same, and let's get this close because a 4-point has to be 4. There we are. Okay, now I have something resembling what I need. It does only has to resemble. You can manipulate this. That's the whole point. You're trying to use these tools just to get close to, and then you can manipulate it. Okay, let's hit OK. It's going to smooth that out. It already automatically applies some of those smoothing tools. Very convenient. Now I need to draw. First thing is I want this to draw to a point. You have 2 options. I can either select a vertex and delete it, which drags it right to a point, which that works, so why not? Or Control Z, I can use the edit form, select that edge there, and I can try to scale it down to a point. Honestly, I've found that that works fine, but sometimes it does cause issues. So I would recommend using just the deleting one of the vertices. So let's hit cancel, and I'll go back, pick one of the 2, delete it. There we are. Okay. So now I have something real close to the blade. As I orbit around, you can see what I got going here. I have a plane that's already subdivided and fairly uniform for the handle, and I have a section over here for the blade. Now I left this space as a gap intentionally because I am, instead of bridging or anything, I'm going to just actually join these. All right. So the blade is basically the blade. There's not a lot to it, but we know that blades have more of a wedge to them. So let's start working with that first. Okay. So you have a few different options. So far, we've been manipulating faces just by using the edit form and tweaking that and such. Well, what if I actually just want to add some dimension to this? We still have a lot of our more standard solid tool space tools. And one of those is going to be extrude. Now this works differently here, but in this case, it'll work basically the same. I can select all kinds of stuff, but look what's starting to happen here. It starts doing some real weird stuff, but that's because the distance was already in there for some reason. So let's go back to 0 and let's say more like 1. All right. So you can see here, it's going to start giving me some actual dimensions to work from. 1 millimeter, I can drag down. And that's all just because it's going sharp like that. So what did we just learn a few minutes ago that would work a lot better than working this soft like this? Now you have a selection tool here, maintain crease edges. That works, but it's a hollow form. And that's not really a big deal. We can trim that up. The other thing could be cancel. And instead, we could use the thicken tool. Select that face. Sure, two. But now instead of using the soft tool or the thicken type soft, let's make that a little bit thicker. Let's just give us a little bit more work to work from. 3 millimeters. Okay. I can either select the sharp tool, which will maintain those edges nicely. Select OK. Now I have a nice crisp edge there. Another thing I can play with here, though, Control Z, go back and thicken, all that. I also have the thicken type no edge. So when I click that, what it creates is two completely separate faces. So a way to do this is instead, because if I just made a basic extrusion, I would still have to like make some kind of bevel here, some kind of like trimming section here. What I can do is go to modify. I can actually basically glue these edges together. And what that tool is weld vertices. This is one where you take two sections, something that's separated apart, and select different vertices, and it sticks them together, welds them together. It's a really cool tool. So now when I select that, you see vertices pop up. It's just showing you display mode. Cool. My options, yeah, you got vertex to vertex, midpoints, all that kind of stuff. We're just going to leave it as that. So as I start selecting things, I'm going to select in pairs. 1-to-1, 1-to-1. Nah, this might not be a good option at all. I was hoping this was going to be more straight. Not so much, but it can be. So what happened is I just joined that one side. There is still a checkbox on here. Select maintain creased edge. Dang. I was hoping it was going to actually do that. Let's try. I'm going to see if that actually works by first selecting that. I'm not sure if it will. There we go. So make sure you select the checkbox first, and it'll just bring them right together as they are. Cool. So now I have offset those faces just by using the thicken tool, but I didn't have it create an edge. And instead I was able to weld these vertices together like that. I left the back open intentionally. Click OK. Let me save here. Created and vertices. Oops. Vertex welded. Okay. I can close this up back here. We learned this last time when I fixing how some vertices got all kinds of scrambled there. I can just close a hole. So let's see if this works. Fill hole. I don't know if it will because it's got an open edge here. Let's try. First, let's try on this corner here. Yep, that's what I was afraid of. Failed to create hole, give an edge. Okay. So what I can do then is I can try, because I wasn't sure if that was going to work. Play with some of these tools. I was hoping that would have worked. Let's try this. Maybe I can select face and try on this. And let's try multiple sides. Nope, that's not going to work. Poop. I was really hoping that was going to work. All right. Well, being all smart there, and then not so much. Dang. Well, let's come back to it. I was hoping that would work that way, and it's not. So we'll come back to it in a moment. That'll give us an opportunity to think about it, us being me. All right, first I want to do is play with this handle here. It's a little bit out of spot. That's all right. I'm going to be moving the vertices and such around, so it won't really matter. So first, let's go to our trusty edit space, and let's use vertex tool. Let's see, soft modification, keep that on, and let's just move some stuff around. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the center point where it is because it pretty much lines up with the hole or with those pins there, and I'm just going to use use the edit form to manipulate parts into about where I want the handle to be. Now, one trick here is, well, that all needs to be very much more curved. So that's one of the ones that I actually could just delete. So select that point, delete it, makes the curve much more effective. Go to there. Now I can go back to moving my vertices around. Oh, did we just crash it? Whoop. Sorry, give me a moment here. I just crashed the program. Okay, well, Fusion crashed on me. I'm not sure why. These things happen. So where I was just before that happened is I was, to buy myself a little bit of time while I think about the knife, just going to go back to editing the handle here. So that's just the trusty Form Edit tool as we've been working so far. Not a problem there. Oops. Trying to select by just vertex. There we are. Just moving some of these about to about where I wanted. Now, where I got in trouble for some reason, after I deleted this vertex, let's see if it happens twice. Oops. All right. Edit form. Back to that. No idea why I did that. Okay. Just moving a few of these to about where I think it would like to be. All right. Now, again, problem here is how do I create that little point out? Well, you got a couple of options there. You could insert an edge, divide that up, and add right there. That actually works pretty well. Then I can go in, manipulate that vertex. Problem is that doesn't work very well. So let's cancel that, Control Z. The other option would be just like I did for the top. Select that vertex, delete. That obviously messes up a bunch of stuff, but I can still go back, tweak a bunch of things. That gets us closer. Pretty close there too. So really it just depends on how you want to work. That works okay. What I could do there is I think I'm still going to end up with having to add an edge. So select OK, modify vertex, or sorry, insert edge rather. Geez. There. No, let's do it from the other way. Insert edge to there. Ooh, what's going on there? It's doing some weird stuff. There we are. Select there. That I feel like gets us a little bit closer to where I want to be. There we are. That looks a lot better. So again, this is one of those, especially in the form edit space and such, or the form space in general, you're going to run into a lot of points where there's no one solution. You're going to find stuff that allows you to just kind of play with some different options, and you're going to end up with some stuff that just is freehand. Okay. All right. So from here, what I could do, I need to add some dimension to that handle. And let's see, how thick is a handle like this? That looks to be about, well, I can actually measure it. That makes more sense. About 15 millimeters. Okay. So I could still use like the thicken tool or extrude. Either of those would work. Really kind of depends on what we're going to try. Let's try one and then the other. The extrude did some weird things. Select all the faces. By profile, this allows me to do any one. Basically, the reason it lets me do that is the same thing I was being able to alter on the fly when I had edit form active and pressing and hold Alt. Same thing here. Maintain creased edges, drag it down. Let's say, what was that? Negative 15? 15. Okay. All right. I used an extrude, but look what it did. It basically created a box. Reason for that is it's an extrude that is not, it's a kind of a true extrude. It's moving the faces I just chose down and creating direct extrusion there instead of the like rounding out. If I want to go this route, I can now go to modify and close hole, or fill hole rather. Select that edge. There we do. There we are. Gives me some weird options there. Cycle through your options. Collapse. Again, I don't like any of these, I don't think. And actually, it made some real problematic stuff. So let's cancel all that and Control Z right back out of that. I think we'll just stick with thicken. There we are. Select the face. Thickness 15. A lot better. And I think we'll stick with soft edge. There we are. So soft edge did some weird stuff too. I kind of want a combination of that because I still want a rounded handle, but this really messes up everything else. So let's Control Z, thicken. Let's stay sharp, and we can try to round this out afterwards. All right. Now, right now, the other issue is that's kind of right in the middle. So I'm going to move this piece down negative, what's half of 15, negative 7.5. Oop, not 45, just 5. There we are. Because I'm just working in the middle here. All right. So I've thought about what I could do about this face here. And unfortunately, since I don't have the timeline, and what I should have done was split these faces probably into 2 sections. So I think I'm going to have to redo that. But playing with the thicken tool gave me some ideas. So I'm just going to go ahead and select all that, delete it. Still going to use faces, though. Get to close where we were. Work that out. Make my quick little chef knife here. I realized I also missed the little kick out there last time when I was making this. And to close it off, get something close to. Select OK. That kind of smooths it out. We've got to do some real work to that. Delete one of the vertices to give myself a point again. There we are. And I can do some manipulation. So let me just true this up a little bit real quick. Try to clean this a little bit up. That's close enough. Okay, you get the idea. So what I can try now instead is I'm going to choose, I'm still going to choose thicken, select there. And that was like, nope, not 2. I want to try 3 millimeters. So, and I want to leave a thicken type as sharp. Okay. So that did the same thing. But what I want to try now is still use the weld vertices. So go down here, weld vertices, make sure to select maintain creased edges. Let's see what this does. I think it can collapse across. There we are. All right. Basically doing the same thing that we did before. Just working my way around. I'm gonna have to fix that one. But now if I look around, it's a closed form. So there we go. Same tool, just a slightly different set of options. Lets me get more of what I actually want out of it. Okay, I'm reasonably happy with that. The knife was pretty wonky, but I wasn't being overly cautious with how I did that. All right. So from here, well, I still need to connect these two. So we've got a couple of options. I can bridge this. I can try to model this. It's really going to be up to you. If I want to try to extrude this out, what I can do is select those faces. I can press and hold Alt. drags outward. I can use the scale tool to shrink that down a little bit. Ultimately, a big problem is it's still all very rounded. Might have to figure that out in a few. I can use a bridge tool, but make sure that I come back and align these parts a little bit better. So let me use move and select this body instead. Let me deselect those, select that body. And I'm just trying to drag it more of right in the middle. That's not bad. Okay. Now, I try to modify and go to bridge. Side 1 is the faces. Side 2, that face. All right. This is another option. This is another error that comes up. What it's saying is they must have, the edges must be of the same value. What that means is, looking at the faces I'm trying to join, one face on the blade, over here, it's two faces. So I have a couple of options. Let me select out of that. I can either select that line, or sorry, that edge, and try deleting it, which worked, or I could have gone in and added a edge into the knife. So let's just try that. Go to there, bridge. Now there's only one face on there. Select the other side, two faces. Must be of equal or multiple from, yeah, I did that. Preview. Number of faces. Let's try that. Let's maintain crease edges. I don't think it's going to let me do it at all. That is a shame. I'm not sure why it's doing that, because it's only the one. Other option we could do is, before, when we were working with the spoon, we can delete some faces entirely. So we're going to work with the edges. Delete that. Now let's try bridging it. Now what I'm going to do is, instead of the face, I'm going to select the actual edges all the way around. Let's see what happens. It's probably not going to let me because there's a lot of edges in here. All right. So all of those are selected yellow now. Side 2. Yeah. Not periodic. Yeah, that's going to be problems there too. Jeez. There's just problems galore here. Let me see if I can delete some edges again. It should be back down to 4 and 4. Let's try that. So this is effectively what I'm doing is I'm just trying some stuff. I wasn't sure if this was going to work, but I wanted to just walk you all through some examples of what might work, what might be some options. I'm getting there. Shut up. All right. So I think the other issue is that it's just too large and awkward of a gap. So let's try that. Let's try tweaking that. Modify. Let's use just the edges to there. Drag that over a little closer. Now let's try shrinking that using the scale tool. Get us a little closer to what we want. Same with that one. A little closer. That might work. Okay. Try it again. Yes. Side. Oops. I don't know why I had selected side 2. My mistake there. What's going on here? Side 1. Back to side 2. Go to preview. There we go. So I just had to close the gap a little bit, make it a little bit more uniform. Clearly, there's still an alignment issue there. Maintain creased edges. Select OK. All right. So now we got a kind of warped form there. So this is, of course, the problem with bridge. When we were bridging the spoon before, it was a pretty organic shape. Here, it is, I have more of geometric shapes. So while that was a very long roundabout way of getting to this, bridge is not the right tool here. Oh, well, wanted to try it, wanted to see. Ultimately, the other option would just be go back to welding what we did. So before, when I when I welded the vertices on this the knife, do the same. Weld vertices, but you still needed to have an equal set of points. So going through all those, modifying this side of the handle and all that such, I needed to do that anyway. So now, maintain crease edges, weld mode the same. Now I'm just going to draw between points. It's a little confusing, so try not to get lost while you're working on this. But this is a convenient way of closing two forms together. There we are. And because I had the maintain creased edge checkbox selected, I was able, I was able to keep all those sections closed up. So not a perfect knife, but you see where I'm going with that. So let's select OK. I'm going to try finishing form. Hopefully there's no errors. Hey, no errors. All right. So let me hide the canvas so you can see what's going on here. When I closed that, it stayed pretty much the same way. You can see all the faces intact. You can see the blade. From here, I could then go my old fillet tools and such. Let's try to select those. Let's see what happens. Let's grow that a little bit larger. So what you're working with here, oops, that was a bit too much. So let's try 4. Still more. 3. Geez, it is. It liked the small one, but apparently it is not liking that single one. Or I'm just having trouble recalculating. All right, well, I was hoping that was going to be able to round out a little bit more effectively, but it's not, but that's okay. So main thing I wanted to show you on this aspect is everything does not have to be completed within the form workspace. You can fall back on some tried and true methods from what we've learned earlier in the semester using the solid workspace. But there we go. It's not perfect by any means, but it does work quite well. So let me move these out of the way. I have my kitchen knife. Let me activate that, move that out of the way so you can see both at the same time. All right. And we could always throw some appearance on of, let's just use paint, and let's say glossy for the scoop. Great. Oh yeah, I want to capture position, save, knife, finished. Oops. Didn't mean to use the sarcasm font. All right. So one last thing I want to show you on this. So far, we've been adding appearances by the entire body. With this knife, you can also do it by faces. So let me bring back the appearance tool. And if you look, we haven't explored this yet this semester, but look at the top of the appearance toolbox. You can go from bodies and components or to faces. Select there. And now what I can do, let me collapse this and just try some other metals. Let's go with stainless short because it's shining and polished. I can drag this. Now it's a little bit tricky because you have to do this by part, but I can actually drag these individually by faces. Go to another one. Let's say for the handle, let's say wood. Sure, finished. Ooh, snazzy. Oh, those are all new ones that I got to download. Fine, we'll just stick with the regulars. Rich mahogany. So you can see here that I have to apply this all by face, but hopefully I can select. Poop. It did all of them. Okay. Error codes away. That's fine. So I had applied to all the ones. I was hoping I would just be able to select individual ones, but that's all right. I guess I'll have to drag and drop each one. This is more applicable to our next project, but I'm able to apply faces or apply appearances by individual faces. So if you wanted to cut stuff up even more effectively, this is how you have to do it. This is definitely one drawback to Fusion is this Faces tool, but there we are. Okay. So let's save. Appearances by face. So those are admittedly not perfect ways of working, but I wanted to just work my way through and show y'all some different ways of approaching the same set of tools we were just using, tweaking them a little bit, and just show you a little bit more involved ways you can manipulate so that you can explore the same set of tools in a slightly different way. So hopefully that doesn't confuse the ever living crap out of you, but actually instead gives you some ideas. So best of luck with any of it, and ultimately try not to go too crazy, and instead hopefully it's fun. So thanks very much.